Hello, everyone. Cindy Hartzell in our private group of Unbridled Freedom. And today is our fifth live in the series of Writing with More Confidence. And I'd first like to thank all of you for joining and watching this series. I also want to welcome all of our new members. Our group is growing rapidly, and I'm very excited about that. And the first thing that we always do in our live videos is we stop and we pause, settle down into our chairs, allowing ourselves to let go of whatever's gone on today. And we do that through taking nice, deep belly breaths. And as we let out all that air, we get settled down deeper into our chair. We take deep breaths into that power center of ours, which is 3 inches below our belly button and back towards the center, but it's easier to focus on going back towards your spine. So on this next deep breath, let's go in and down into our pelvic bowl, 3 inches below our belly button, back towards our spine. And as we let out the air, let go of all the stress you may feel in your body. Let's take 3 more breaths together and just get here and grounded and present. And the way that you do that is through your breath. Our breath is the gateway to all things good. Here we go. The breath is so important, and I believe that the majority of us do not give it the attention and the awareness that it needs. And when we are feeling, sorry, I'm trying to get my head straight. When we are feeling hurried and rushed and stressed or worried, things are chaotic, the quickest, most certain way to get grounded and be able to clear your head and think clearly is to breathe into that space below your belly button, in your pelvic bowl, your power center. It grounds us immediately. The other thing about focusing on our breath is our minds run wild unless we are intentionally working to train our minds to do otherwise. And when we focus on taking nice deep belly breaths into our power center, our mind can't focus on a bunch of other things. It can only focus on taking those deep belly breaths. And when we breathe out, and we breathe out through the soles of our feet, we are letting go of all the stress and becoming more grounded. And when you become more grounded, you become more present. Now, what does this have to do with horses? It has everything to do with horses. Horses communicate with one another through body language. Horses feel energy. That's how they know that a storm is coming before we ever know, or that they can sense an earthquake coming before we do. It's because they are energy beings, and they are keenly in tune to energy around them. So when we have scattered energy and our head is filled with the chatter, we call it monkey chatter, it distracts us and it makes our energy kind of stagnant. If you think about static, if you think about the old-fashioned TVs, now I'm kind of dating myself, so I don't know how many of you have had that, or listening to the radio and the station isn't quite dialed in, and so you get that static in the background. That's what happens to our energy, and our horses feel that, and it actually agitates and irritates them. So if you have a horse that has a tendency to be a little heightened alert, a little excitable, a little hyper, one of the best things that you can do for them, the minute you step into their enclosure, their stall, their pen, their pasture, that's why I call it an enclosure. I don't know where your horse houses. It's where you house your horse. But the minute that you step in, if you take a moment to just stand and do 4 to 6 deep belly breaths and get yourself grounded and let all the chatter from the day or what's going to happen in the day, if you're a morning bird, just doing that and grounding and being present with them will pay you large dividends, I promise. Now, today's episode in this series is gradual exposure and controlled challenges. So, we have things that have happened with horses in the past that have maybe scared us, shaken our confidence. And our horses have probably had things happen in their past that has shaken their confidence, scared them. They recognize the stimulus or the potential of that same thing happening in their environment, and so they're worried about it. I'm pausing for a minute because I was riding with a student yesterday, and we were on a trail riding lesson, so I was riding one of her horses, and she was telling me that somebody told her that horses don't have a memory. They don't remember things that have happened to them. And I had to tell her that's not true. They absolutely remember the things in their past. Horses remember each other. A full-grown horse, if they get the chance to see their dam, will remember their dam or their buddy when they were growing up, or their trainer when they were young, the one that imprinted with them. They remember experiences. They store them in their memory bank as what we call dendrites, which are memory cells. And because horses live in the present moment, when they are going through their day or going through a trail ride with you or a training with you or riding around on the property with you, and they're coming up to different experiences in their environment, they are constantly checking in with their memory bank as if those memory cells were like on a Rolodex, and they see something in their environment. They immediately draw on past experiences and look for something that's similar to that experience. And however that experience played out for them, whether it was good or bad, will determine on how they prepare to respond to the current stimulus. So that's important to know. They absolutely remember. As do we. The difference between them and us is that we have that frontal lobe and we have the ability to play what happened in the past in our mind as if it's happening right now. That's good and that's bad. The good of it is we can learn from the experiences. The bad is our mind is an amazing thing. And it doesn't know if what we're thinking about in this moment is from the past, the present, or the future. it thinks it's happening all right now. And that's why we love movies. That's why we can be watching a movie and get so enthralled as if we're living it. Because our mind lives in the present moment. Our emotions will grab memories and bring it into our mind and run it through as if it's happening right now. That's why we can get super excited when we think about a really fun time we had with one of our favorite people or with our horses. And that's why we can get ourselves really anxious or worried or sometimes even angry when we're thinking about something that happened in the past. It's why we can get lost in a good book. Because our minds live in the present moment. There's other parts of us that bring up the memories and play it through our mind, and it seems like it's happening. So what does this have to do with gradual exposure and controlled challenges? Well, first of all, in order to be able to help our horses and ourselves to become the confident people and horses that we want, we have to know what's going on. Because if we're not aware of what's going on, then we're not going to understand why what we're doing may not be working. So let's talk about, say you had an experience with a horse, maybe the horse you have now, maybe a horse that you had in the past, and it's created fear in you. And so you find yourself avoiding those kind of certain situations. Say it's going over a bridge on the trail, or going by a flag, or gosh, I'm trying to think of some of the things and now my mind's going blank. But you know what it is. If you've got that little bit of trauma from something that's happened in your past, you know what it is. So how do we overcome that? I have had some pretty serious traumas with horses, and I was able to work myself through it because of my coaching background and my equine assisted facilitating work that I do. And I teach workshops that are based on finding your way back after trauma. So I know a little bit about trauma. And I work with horses who have trauma. So we often will avoid the things that we're afraid of because something negative has happened in our past. Or we will avoid things with our horses because our horses are telling us, I'm not going near that. I'm super uncomfortable about that. I don't like that. It could be being tied up. It could be water crossings or things that fly, flap, jackets, flags, bags, tarps on the ground, hats, the list goes on. So we will find ourselves avoiding it. And that just creates more anxiety in us and our horses. Because remember, we're striving to be the best leader we can be for our horses, so that they trust us, so that they turn to us and ask us, is this okay? What do we do? What's next? So the first thing I'm going to tell you is, don't ignore what is frightening you. And don't ignore what's frightening your horse. And don't play the should game. I should be better than this. I shouldn't be afraid of that. I should be able to get over this. My horse should be able to do this. Please don't play that game. Should is a bad word, in my opinion, because all it does is create guilt and shame. And that gets you and your horse nowhere. Acknowledge what you're afraid of. Acknowledge what brings up anxiety in you. Acknowledge it in your horse. Make a list. Sit down with a cup of tea and a piece of paper and a pencil and make a list of those things that you or your horse are uncomfortable about, or what you're both uncomfortable about. And those will be the things that you're going to practice gradual exposure and controlled challenges with. So how do we do that? Let's use a tarp, for example. A lot of horses do not like tarps, okay? And it could be anything else, you guys. If your horse is a genius and loves going over tarps and loves tarps draped over their back and all those things, that's great. Then pick another one that makes you both uncomfortable. And I know they're out there. And if you don't know, then get creative. Tie grocery bags onto the end of a stick. Get some party noise makers. Get those popping things that throw confetti. Get silly string. Do what you can. Get umbrellas. Find out in a controlled environment how your horse handles these things. So we're going to use a tarp. So let's say we have the tarp out on the ground and we've kicked some dirt over around all of the edges so it doesn't blow up and they're less likely to catch a hoof on it and pull it up while they walk over it. And notice how you feel inside before you go get your horse to come out and play crossing the tarp. Breathe into that power center and notice, does it bring up any stress or anxiety, butterflies? Do you want to avoid it or resist it? Just notice that and breathe into it. Okay? Whatever you do, please do not fake it till you make it. That is the worst advice I have ever heard when it comes to horses, because horses' bullshit meter is one of the most keen meters you will ever find. And they will tell you in an instant that you are not being authentic. So do not fake it till you make it. If you're feeling anxious and butterflies, acknowledge it. Breathe into your power center. Bring your horse out. If you know your horse already doesn't like tarps, then take some time to breathe with them. I do everything on the ground first. I love groundwork. It is the foundation to a solid relationship and partnership. Because if you can't do it on the ground, I guarantee you that when you put your feet up in those stirrups and your butt in that saddle, you've taken away a lot of your leverage. So do it on the ground. Groundwork is one of the most rewarding things, and it is one of the best ways to prove to your horse that you are a leader worthy of following, that you are fair but firm, that you can be trusted and you will never lie. So play with them on the ground. And so back to the tarp. You come to the tarp, you play with them on the ground, get them tuning in with you, get them looking to you, curious and comfortable in their environment, and then take them to the tarp. And as you're walking up to the tarp, be watching their body language. What are they saying to you with their ears and their eyes and the tension in their muzzle or no tension in their muzzle? Do they have a fixed stare? Are their eyes wide open? Do they have the V? Their upper eyelid is in that V. Those are all telling you how your horse is doing. Is their head above their withers? Are they in their sympathetic nervous system? Or is it in that neutral plane? Pole, withers, hips, neutral. Or is it dropped below into the parasympathetic where they're calm and thinking? Know what your horse is saying through their body language. How are you feeling? Are you still breathing? And what I mean by breathing, are you taking deep breaths, or are you, and you don't even know it? Awareness is so important in everything we do. So approach them to the tarp. Take them as close as they're comfortable and pause and breathe. Let them pause and breathe. Horses are so curious by nature, so pause. Let them breathe. Watch how they're receiving the tarp. And then what most people will do next is move closer. No. Move away from it. Take a walk. Breathe. Celebrate that you were there as close as your horse could go, and you both breathed and paused and was present. Take a break. Get away from the stimulus. Then turn around and approach again and see, do they stop at the same spot or do they move closer? As they move to where they can go, they may go all the way up to it, or they may go just a few steps closer, or they may stop in the same spot. Pause, breathe. Notice how you're feeling about it. What is their body language telling you? Can you ask them to take one step closer if they stopped at the very same spot? Just one step. We go, oh, good, that was one. Now can you take two? Don't do that. Don't do that to yourself or your horse. Can they move closer and stay longer? That is a very powerful, powerful technique. Whatever your horse is hesitant about, whatever you're hesitant about, can you move closer? Not to the point of being anxious, not to the point of them being afraid, but can you move close, but not to the point where you begin to feel anxious or they begin to want to flee? And can you stay there and breathe? 4 to 6 breaths. Till your horse looks at it and can feel like you can feel them relaxing. Then turn around and walk away. That's gradual exposure. What we want to do so often, what I know so many trainers tell you to do, is just get them up there, get them through it. You're going to get bucked off. You're going to get ran over. You're going to get a horse that doesn't trust you any more than that trainer that's telling you to do that technique. Don't do it. Gradual exposure in a controlled challenge. Move closer. Stay longer. Pause. Breathe. Be grounded. Let your horse feel that. Watch their breathing. Watch the tension in their face, looking for relaxation, and then walk away. Take a couple circles. Go just chill, and then come back. And if you take this approach to anything that worries you or your horse, I promise you, you will be able to work through pretty much everything that frightens you and your horse. Because what we're working with, you guys, is our and their autonomic nervous system. You're going to hear me talk about this all the time because it's that important. Sympathetic nervous system is when a horse's head is above their withers and they are in fight or flight. They are releasing adrenaline and cortisol. And they're taking short, shallow breaths. When we are worried, we're more tense, we're more forward, we're taking short, shallow breaths, which is telling our nervous system, beware, this is dangerous. That's what happens when you or your horse or both of you come to something that is creating fear. And the way that we work through it is not to fake it till we make it, not force ourselves or our horses, not flooding us with that stimulus or them. That's the worst thing you can do. That's what creates PTSD. What you do is just what I said. Move closer, stay longer, breathe. Breathe with your horse. There's power in the pause. I've talked about this in the video, in the lives prior to this. When we stop and we breathe into our power center, that space below our belly button, that pelvic bowl, that grounds us, puts us in the present moment, brings us into parasympathetic nervous system. Our horses feed off of us and we feed off of them. But remember, we're striving to be their leader. We don't want to feed off of them. We want to acknowledge, we want to know, but we don't want to match their energy. We want to breathe and get grounded into our parasympathetic nervous system, which can be found in our power center. And in our parasympathetic nervous system, we are releasing endorphins and serotonin, and we can think. We're getting oxygen and blood to all of our organs. When we're in sympathetic nervous system, we are only getting blood and oxygen to our vital organs for survival, which are our heart, our lung, and our muscles. It's the lungs. It's the same for the horses. If we can breathe and be grounded as we have moved as close to that challenge, that things that's bringing up the anxiety in either us or our horses or both, as we get it as close as we can and we breathe, we're giving our horses the opportunity to match us. If they can't stand that close, take 2 steps back. Don't leave. Just go back to where they can stand and be still. And when their head is above, can you breathe and pause and be with them long enough for it to either go into neutral or below? When it goes below, they're in parasympathetic nervous system, releasing endorphins and serotonin, and now they can think and respond to you and the stimulus, that challenge that is scaring them. When their head is above their withers, they are not thinking. They cannot respond to you. They probably don't even hear you, actually. They're in fight or flight reactive mode. Breathe for them. Stand still with them. If they need to move their feet, let them move their feet, maybe in half a circle. Or if they really need to move their feet, move back as far away from that stimulus till they're comfortable. And then help them through breath to come down. And then move as close as you can without them going, wah, and stay and breathe. It's called move closer, stay longer. Power in the pause and breathe. Do not force you or your horse through something that your nervous system is saying alert, alert, alert. You have to regulate your breathing. You have to regulate their breathing. You have to give yourself and them the opportunity to regulate their autonomic nervous system before you can successfully move forward. Now, there's that saying, take the time that it takes so it takes less time. There's power in that saying. It's not just a clever little saying. If you take the time to have gradual exposure in a controlled challenge, you will help yourself and your horse overcome the fear, the apprehension, and the anxiety. It'll become a nothing. But if you try to push it, it's going to be a fight, and it's going to create more anxiety, more fear, and most important, a lack of trust from your horse into you. So you guys, I hope you found value in this video. Please comment below. Tell me, what is your horse afraid of? What are you afraid of? Let's talk about it in this group. We can share in this group the challenges that you have. Because I promise you, if you're having challenges with these things, there are other people having challenges. So I just want to remind everybody that I have a 6-week course coming up. I'm looking at my notes. A 6-week course coming up called Unbridled Confidence, The Path to Fearless Leadership with Horses. It's beginning on November 1st. It's a 6-week course, 90 minutes each time. It's going to be chock full of information. If you miss one of the Zoom calls, it's going to be recorded, so you'll have access to that. And we'll have Q&A opportunities. I will put the link here in the comments below for you to click on and register. If you're ready to start really diving into becoming the leader your horse desires you to be, that's filled with confidence, trust, and the ability to communicate with them in a way that they understand. If you are ready to learn and to take a deep dive into horse psychology and behavior and how they see the world, so that you can be the leader, knowing how they operate from the inside out, then this is a great place to start this 6-week course. So click on the link below, sign up. I can't wait to get started on November 1st. Next week, we are going to be having our 6th session in this 8-week series. And again, I'm looking at my notes. It's going to be learning from setbacks. And it's going to be a good one, just like all these others have been. So you guys, comment below. Please tell me what you think. Tell me what you'd like to learn more about. And thank you so much for being a part of this group and watching this video. Take care, everybody.